The mansion was silent except for the faint ticking of the gold-rimmed clock on the foyer wall. Billionaire industrialist Adrian Hale stepped through the front door much earlier than usual, his mind spinning with the exhaustion of endless meetings, negotiations, mergers, and the noise of a life that rarely paused. He had come home defeated, another deal lost, another day where he barely remembered the sound of his 10-year-old son Ethan's voice. All he wanted was a moment of quiet before preparing for the next battle. But the moment he looked into the living room, he froze. His keys slipped from his fingers. His mouth opened in disbelief. Because standing in front of a whiteboard filled with complex equations and diagrams was the last person he ever expected to see doing something so extraordinary, his maid, Maria. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected heroes, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to support stories that inspire hearts around the world. Adrian's eyes widened as he stepped closer, unable to process what he was witnessing. Maria, the woman who had quietly scrubbed floors and prepared meals with gentle humility for nearly 7 years, was teaching Ethan advanced mathematics, physics concepts, and problem-solving strategies far beyond what his private school offered. She stood there with calm confidence, guiding the boy step by step, her voice steady and reassuring. Ethan, who usually hated homework, sat completely absorbed, eagerly writing down formulas as if learning were an adventure instead of a chore. And the strangest part was the look in his son's eyes, something Adrian hadn't seen in years: joy, challenge, curiosity, hope. Adrian felt something inside him crack. He had spent fortunes on tutors who lasted weeks, sometimes only days, because Ethan either got frustrated, or they insisted he had trouble focusing. But now, here he was, focused, excited, determined, because of someone Adrian never even bothered to really notice beyond her job title. He stayed quiet and watched, feeling smaller with each passing minute. Maria continued explaining the problem with soft patience, drawing shapes and formulas while Ethan nodded proudly. Adrian remembered all the times he had walked past this woman carrying laundry baskets or polishing the silverware, never once imagining she possessed a mind sharper than most executives he worked with. The shame stung him. How many times had he taken her presence for granted? How many moments like this had he missed while chasing wealth that seemed to grow emptier every year? When Maria finally turned and noticed Adrian standing there, her face flushed with embarrassment. She quickly stepped back, almost apologetic, as if she'd crossed a boundary. But Adrian didn't feel anger, only a deep, unexpected gratitude. He gestured for her to continue, quietly observing the tenderness with which she encouraged Ethan through each step. It wasn't just teaching, it was caring. Something Ethan had desperately needed, something Adrian had failed to give. As the lesson ended, Ethan jumped from his chair, energized and proud, running to his father with excitement that stabbed Adrian's heart with a bittersweet ache. Ethan held up his notebook filled with neatly solved equations, his smile shining brighter than any chandelier in the mansion. Adrian hugged him, realizing how rare moments like this had become, how work had devoured the very reason he worked so hard. And then, watching Maria shyly gather her markers and papers, Adrian saw something else, an exhaustion in her eyes that wasn't physical but emotional. The kind carried by people who have lived through quiet sacrifices and silent battles. Later that evening, unable to shake the scene from his mind, Adrian called Maria into his office. She stood nervously, hands clasped, worried she had overstepped. But Adrian's voice was softer than she had ever heard it. He asked where she learned to teach like that. And then Maria shared her story, one that left him stunned all over again. Years ago, she had been a promising mathematics professor in her home country. Brilliant, respected, admired. But tragedy struck when political unrest destroyed the university she worked at, leaving her family in danger. She fled with her young daughter, arriving in the country with nothing but hope and a willingness to work any job that would help them survive. Cleaning houses was the only work available. As she spoke, Adrian felt a sharp pain of guilt digging deeper. This gifted woman had been polishing floors while hiding a mind capable of shaping futures. The next morning, Adrian made a decision that would change all their lives. He offered Maria a new position, not as a maid, but as Ethan's private tutor and the head of a small learning program he wanted to develop for children of his employees who couldn't afford elite education. Maria's eyes filled with tears as she covered her mouth in disbelief. For years she had buried her brilliance beneath the weight of survival. Now, someone saw her, not as a maid, not as a background figure, but as a woman with remarkable talent and heart. Ethan cheered when he found out, hugging Maria tightly as if she were family. And in the days that followed, the mansion transformed. Its cold hallways, usually echoing with silence, became filled with laughter, questions, ideas, and warmth. Adrian started coming home earlier, sometimes even joining lessons just to watch his son's confidence soar. The bond between father and son slowly rebuilt itself, not through money or gifts but through presence, through shared moments that money could never buy. But perhaps the biggest transformation was the one inside Adrian. Watching Maria help Ethan grow reminded him of the values he had buried beneath ambition. He realized that true wealth wasn't in bank accounts or business empires, it was in people. In kindness. In giving someone a chance to shine. And in remembering that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. If this story touched your heart in any way, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to support more emotional stories like this. Before the story ends, take a moment to comment, "I believe in hidden heroes." With Maria now leading a small educational foundation funded by Adrian, dozens of employees' children gained access to opportunities they never dreamed of. Ethan grew braver, smarter, kinder. And Adrian, the man who once came home seeking only silence, now walked through his doors each day eager to hear the sound of learning and laughter filling the air. The day he came home early expecting nothing but exhaustion became the day he discovered the greatest lesson of his life, that sometimes angels don't descend from the sky. Sometimes they quietly dust your shelves, sweep your floors, and carry brilliance beneath humble uniforms, just waiting for someone to finally see them.